Have you ever noticed how loud the world has become? Not just the noise of traffic, notifications, and endless chatter, but the internal clamor, the worries, the distractions, the constant pull of other people's expectations. It's enough to make anyone feel scattered, drained, searching for solid ground in a world that never seems to stop spinning. Yet nearly 2,000 years ago, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, "Nowhere can a person find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in their own soul." Imagine that, in the middle of wars, political intrigue, and immense responsibility, he spoke of an inner citadel, a mental fortress built not from stone, but from silence, clarity, and unshakable calm. This isn't just ancient wisdom, it's a deeply human invitation to reclaim something we've almost forgotten: the power of inner silence. The Stoics understood that true strength isn't about shouting louder than the chaos around you. It's about turning down the volume internally, mastering your thoughts, guarding your attention, and building a sanctuary within that no external storm can penetrate. They called this the architecture of inner strength, and they constructed it not with tools or weapons, but through disciplined thought, purposeful reflection, and a radical commitment to self-mastery. In a world that values reaction, they chose response. In a culture of noise, they cultivated quiet. In this video, we'll explore exactly how they did it, how mental fortresses were built in total silence. We'll walk through the key principles that made Stoicism so enduring, practices like cognitive detachment, where you learn to separate events from your judgments about them, voluntary discomfort, which strengthens your resilience by choice rather than chance, and mindful presence, the art of anchoring yourself firmly in the here and now. This is not about suppressing emotion or avoiding life's difficulties. It's about building a foundation so strong that you can meet anything: setbacks, criticism, uncertainty, with grace, clarity, and unwavering strength. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by the noise or longed for a deeper sense of calm and control, you're in the right place. This is the blueprint to building your own inner citadel, starting today. Before any fortress can be built, the ground must be cleared and still. This is the first and most essential principle the Stoics understood: that inner silence isn't just a nice idea, it's the very foundation upon which everything else rests. Think of your mind as a landscape. If it's cluttered with the debris of other people's opinions, the constant chatter of notifications, and your own racing thoughts, there's no stable place to lay even a single stone of resilience. The Stoics dedicated themselves to clearing that ground, to creating a space of profound quiet within, no matter what chaos swirled around them. This wasn't about escaping the world, but about building a home inside themselves they could always return to, a sanctuary of clarity. The Roman philosopher Seneca captured this perfectly when he advised, "Retire into yourself as much as possible. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving." The process is mutual, for people learn while they teach. Notice he doesn't say to abandon society forever. He says to retire into yourself, to make a conscious, daily practice of withdrawing from the noise to reconnect with your own thoughts and judgments. This is the disciplined cultivation of inner silence. For Seneca and for Marcus Aurelius, this was a non-negotiable part of their routine. Before the day began, they would sit in stillness, preparing their minds for whatever might come. They weren't seeking empty-headed peace. They were actively creating a state of readiness and calm focus. Now, contrast that with our modern morning ritual. For many of us, the very first thing we do is reach for a phone, flooding our minds with a torrent of emails, news, and social media updates before we've even had a single original thought. We've replaced that intentional solitude with what amounts to intellectual and emotional clutter. The Stoic practice shows us a different way. It might look like waking up just 15 minutes earlier to sit with a cup of tea in pure quiet without any screens. It could be a walk in nature where you consciously avoid pulling out your headphones, allowing yourself to simply be with your own mind. This isn't about adding another task to your to-do list. It's about carving out a small sanctuary of silence to strengthen your mental foundation. So I want you to honestly ask yourself, when was the last time you experienced true mental silence? Not just the absence of sound, but a genuine stillness where the internal commentary, the worry, the endless planning just stopped. For most of us, it's been a while, and the barriers are usually the same: the fear of being alone with our own thoughts, the belief that we must always be productive and stimulated, and the sheer addictive pull of our devices. But this silence is where your greatest strength is born. It's in that quiet that you can finally hear your own wisdom, separate from the world's demands. It's where you begin to build. What if you could experience hardship without being overwhelmed by it? What if the sting of criticism, the frustration of a traffic jam, or the anxiety of a looming deadline didn't have to dictate your emotional state? This isn't a hypothetical superpower. It's the very core of the Stoic blueprint for mental strength, a concept they called cognitive detachment. Imagine your mind as an architect's drafting table. On it lies the blueprint for your inner fortress, and the first, most critical line drawn is the one that separates the event itself from your judgment of the event. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, born a slave and faced with immense adversity, put it with stunning clarity: it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. He wasn't suggesting we become cold or unfeeling robots. Instead, he was teaching us to build a layer of resilience between the external world and our internal peace. This practice rests on a profound and simple truth: events in the world are by themselves neutral. They have no inherent emotional charge. The meaning, the weight, the emotional impact, that's something we assign through our perception. Think of rain. For a farmer in a drought, rain is a blessing, a cause for celebration. For a family planning a picnic, that same rain is a disappointment. The rain didn't change, only the judgment of it did. The Stoics argued that most of our suffering doesn't come from the events in our lives, but from the stories we tell ourselves about those events. We don't just receive criticism, we tell ourselves it means we're a failure. We don't just sit in traffic, we tell ourselves the universe is conspiring to ruin our day. Cognitive detachment is the practice of spotting that story before it takes over, of questioning the automatic judgment our mind wants to make. Let's make this incredibly practical. Imagine you send an important email to a colleague and their reply is short, terse, and lacks their usual warmth. The event is the email. The automatic, unchecked judgment might be: they're angry with me. I must have done something wrong. They don't respect my work. This story instantly triggers a cascade of stress, self-doubt, and anxiety. Now apply the Stoic blueprint. Pause, detach the event from the judgment. The event is still just the email, a collection of words on a screen. Now, consciously choose a different, more neutral interpretation. Perhaps your colleague is just incredibly busy and stressed themselves. Maybe they typed it quickly on their phone. The email's tone isn't a verdict on your worth. By inserting that moment of detachment, you reclaim your power. You can now choose a calm, professional response instead of a reactive, defensive one. You've used the event not as a brick to build a wall of worry, but as material to reinforce your mental fortress. This is the ultimate form of inner strength because it places your tranquility firmly within your own control, which is the only place it can ever truly be secure. It's about becoming the unwavering watchtower in your own mind, observing the storms of circumstance without being swept away by them. So I want you to bring this into your own life right now. Can you identify one situation from just this past week where your initial judgment of an event caused you more stress than the event itself? Maybe it was a cancelled plan, a negative comment, or an unexpected bill. Replay that moment in your mind, but this time, consciously separate the bare facts from the story you attached to it. How might viewing those facts through a more neutral, detached lens have changed your emotional experience? This simple act of mental reframing is how you start laying the foundation for unshakable resilience, brick by conscious brick. The ancient Stoics didn't wait for hardship, they invited it. This might sound counterintuitive, even a little strange, in a culture that spends billions of dollars every year to avoid even the slightest inconvenience. But for the Stoics, voluntarily stepping into discomfort wasn't a form of self-punishment. It was a brilliant, strategic training exercise for the soul. It was how they built the towering, resilient walls of their inner fortress, brick by self-imposed brick. They understood a fundamental truth about human psychology. Comfort, when it becomes our default state, makes us soft. It shrinks our tolerance for difficulty and magnifies our fear of the unknown. By willingly embracing manageable hardship, we inoculate ourselves against the shock of unexpected suffering. We prove to ourselves in a quiet, powerful way that we can handle far more than we think we can. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, would regularly practice what he called poverty. He would dress in his oldest clothes, eat the plainest food, and sleep on a hard bed for a few days at a time. He wasn't doing this because he had to, but precisely because he didn't have to. He explained, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" This practice served two profound purposes. First, it was a powerful antidote to the fear of loss. By temporarily experiencing a lesser state, he diminished its power to frighten him. Second, and perhaps more importantly, it cultivated a deep and genuine gratitude for the abundance he already possessed. He wasn't taking his comfortable life for granted. He was actively choosing to appreciate it by periodically letting it go. This is the mental preparation of a true strategist training for adversity in the safety of peacetime. Now let's translate this ancient wisdom into a modern context. You don't need to sleep on a stone floor or give up all your possessions to practice this today. Voluntary discomfort is about finding small, intentional ways to step outside your comfort zone to strengthen your resilience muscle. It could be as simple as taking a cold shower for the first minute of your morning routine. That initial shock is a masterclass in controlling your reaction, in breathing through the discomfort and realizing you are still perfectly okay. It could be a digital detox, turning off all notifications and intentionally leaving your phone in another room for a few hours to reclaim your focus and confront the quiet without constant digital validation. For others, it might be signing up for a challenging workout class that pushes you to your physical limits, not just for the physical benefits, but for the mental triumph of completing something difficult. The key is that these are chosen challenges. You are in control. This is the critical difference between suffering that happens to you and discomfort you willingly choose. One can feel like an attack, leaving you feeling victimized and weak. The other is an exercise, leaving you feeling empowered and strong. Each time you complete one of these small acts, you are silently adding another layer to your mental walls. You are sending a message to your deepest self. I am not fragile, I can endure, I am capable. This is how you build a reserve of confidence that you can draw upon when real, uninvited hardship inevitably arrives. So here is a challenge for you, a small building project for your own inner citadel. What is one tiny, manageable discomfort you could voluntarily incorporate into your routine this week? Maybe it's walking somewhere instead of driving, even if the weather isn't perfect. It could be having a difficult but necessary conversation you've been putting off. Perhaps it's skipping that second cup of coffee or eating a simple meal of rice and vegetables for dinner one night. The goal isn't to suffer, it's to choose. It's to willingly step into a minor challenge and prove to yourself that you have the fortitude to meet it with calmness and resolve. That conscious choice is the mortar that holds the stones of your resilience together, making your mental fortress impervious to the storms of chance. Your mental fortress is strongest when you are fully here now. This is the role of the gatekeeper in your architecture of inner strength, the practice of mindful presence that guards the entrance to your mind, allowing only the current moment to pass through while turning away the anxious crowds of past regrets and future worries. The Stoics understood that a mind divided between what was and what might be is a mind weakened, scattered, and vulnerable. Marcus Aurelius, constantly pulled in every direction by the demands of an empire, constantly reminded himself of this vital truth. He wrote, "Don't let your imagination be crushed by life as a whole. Stick with the situation at hand." That phrase, the situation at hand, is the absolute core of this principle. He wasn't advising ignorance of the past or a lack of planning for the future. He was teaching the art of focused engagement, of pouring all of your mental and emotional resources into the single, actionable point of the present. This is how you conserve an immense amount of energy that is otherwise wasted on things you cannot change and outcomes you cannot yet control. Think of your attention as a powerful beam of light. When you are truly present, that beam is focused and intense, illuminating one thing with perfect clarity: the conversation you're having, the report you're writing, the simple sensation of your breath. This focused light allows you to see details, make connections, and perform with a calm precision. Now, imagine that same beam of light fractured and scattered, trying to point in a dozen directions at once. This is the state of multitasking, of divided attention. You're dimly illuminating many things but fully mastering none. You're physically writing an email while mentally rehearsing a difficult conversation you need to have later, all while a part of your brain is still cringing at a minor mistake you made yesterday. This fractured state is incredibly draining. It creates a low hum of background anxiety because you're never truly dealing with anything completely. You're just juggling fragments of tasks and thoughts. The Stoic practice of presence is the deliberate decision to bring that scattered light back into a single, powerful beam. To make this tangible, let's look at a modern scenario. Consider the act of eating a meal while watching television or scrolling through your phone. You are technically nourishing your body, but your mind is elsewhere. You barely taste the food you're unaware of when you're full, and the experience is utterly forgettable. Now, contrast that with the practice of single-tasking that same meal. You sit down with just your plate, you notice the colors and textures of the food, you take a bite and actually focus on the flavors. This simple act of presence transforms a mundane necessity into a small, mindful ritual. It becomes a brief sanctuary of calm in your day. The same principle applies to your work. Trying to answer Slack messages while on a Zoom call and drafting a presentation doesn't make you more productive. It makes you more stressed and far more prone to errors. The Stoic gatekeeper would ask you to close the unnecessary tabs both on your screen and in your mind, and devote yourself wholly to the one most important task. The clarity and quality of your work will skyrocket, and the mental effort will feel less exhausting because you are no longer fighting a war on multiple fronts. This is the profound silence that Marcus Aurelius was pointing toward. not an absence of sound, but an absence of internal distraction. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are fully capable of handling this moment, right here, right now. He advised himself, concentrate every minute like a Roman on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness. That concentration is a form of strength. It's the gatekeeper doing its job perfectly, ensuring your inner citadel is not besieged by invading thoughts of other times and places. To truly integrate this into your own life, I want to invite you to a small but powerful exercise. Sometime in the next 24 hours, set aside just 5 minutes. Choose a very simple activity, making a cup of tea, washing a dish, or even just looking out the window. For those 5 minutes, commit to doing only that. If you're making tea, pay attention to the sound of the water boiling, the warmth of the mug, the aroma of the leaves. When your mind inevitably wanders, and it will gently guide it back to the sensations of the present, there's no goal other than to practice being the gatekeeper of your own attention. Observe what happens. Do you feel a greater sense of calm? Does the activity itself feel different? This is the first quiet step in training your mind to build its strength not in the distant future, but firmly in the unshakable now. How often do you audit your own thoughts and actions? In our busy lives, we meticulously track our finances, our fitness, even our screen time, yet we often leave the most important ledger, the ledger of our character, completely unchecked. The Stoics believed this daily accounting of the self was the very heart of building an inner fortress, a quiet practice conducted in the inner courtyard of your mind where you could review the day's events without judgment or bias. This wasn't about self-criticism, it was about honest, clear-eyed self-examination. It was the process of looking back over the architecture of your day to see which walls stood strong and which might need reinforcing. Seneca, a devoted practitioner of this art, wrote, "I will keep constant watch over myself, and each day I will say to myself, have you done something to be ashamed of? Have you been inconsiderate or bad-tempered or cowardly? Notice the tone. It's not an angry interrogation. It's a gentle yet firm conversation with oneself." The goal is growth, not guilt. It's about aligning your actions with your deepest values so that your inner citadel isn't just a stronghold, but a place of virtue and integrity. This practice of the evening review, or as the Stoics called it, the examination of conscience, is one of the most powerful and practical tools they left us. Imagine ending your day not by mindlessly scrolling until you pass out, but by spending just 10 minutes in quiet reflection with a journal. You would ask yourself a few simple but profound questions. What did I do well today? Where did I act in accordance with my principles? Perhaps you showed patience in a frustrating situation or chose courage by speaking up when it was difficult. Acknowledging these victories silently reinforces those virtuous behaviors, telling your mind, yes, this is the way. Then, with equal compassion, you would ask, where did I fall short? Did I lose my temper over something trivial? Did I avoid a responsibility out of laziness or fear? The crucial step here is to not dwell on this with self-flagellation, but to see it as a learning moment. You simply note the misstep and consider how you might choose differently tomorrow. This turns every failure into a lesson and every success into a cornerstone. In our modern world, this ancient practice is more accessible than ever. You don't need a parchment and quill. The same profound introspection can happen with a notes app on your phone, a voice memo recorder, or even a dedicated journaling app that prompts you with Stoic questions each night. The medium doesn't matter, the intentionality does. This act of writing or speaking your reflections is powerful because it forces clarity. Vague feelings of unease or satisfaction are translated into concrete thoughts. You move from a general sense that today was stressful to the specific realization that I felt stressed when my meeting was cancelled because it made me feel my time was disrespected, but upon reflection, I used that hour productively. This process disentangles the event from your judgment, just as we discussed with cognitive detachment, and allows you to see the underlying patterns in your reactions. It's a daily debrief with your most important employee, yourself. So tonight, I want to encourage you to open the gates to your own inner courtyard. Before you end your day, find a quiet moment. Take out whatever you have to write with and ask yourself two simple questions. First, what is one thing I did today that I am proud of? It doesn't have to be monumental. Maybe you finally made that phone call you'd been avoiding, or you listened intently to a friend without interrupting. Celebrate that small victory. Then ask yourself, what is one thing I could have done better? Again, keep it simple and specific. Perhaps you snapped at a loved one when you were tired, or you scrolled through social media instead of reading that book you've been meaning to. Just observe it without drama and make a mental note for tomorrow. This 5-minute practice is how you become the architect of your own character. It's how you ensure that your mental fortress isn't just a static monument, but a living, growing structure, continually strengthened by the quiet, honest work of self-knowledge. Imagine viewing your life from a mountaintop. How small would your problems seem? This shift in vantage point is precisely what the Stoics trained themselves to do through a powerful mental exercise known as the view from above. It was their watchtower, a place of observation high above the fray of daily life where they could gain emotional distance and see their worries in their true proportion. This wasn't about dismissing your feelings or pretending problems don't matter. It was about context. By consciously expanding their perspective to encompass the vastness of space and time, they could see a stressful moment not as an all-consuming crisis, but as a single, small event in the grand tapestry of existence. This silent mental shift is a profound source of resilience because it drains the drama and intensity from our troubles, allowing us to respond with clarity rather than react with panic. Marcus Aurelius was a master of this practice, constantly reminding himself to zoom out. He wrote in his meditations, "Keep in mind how all things are soon swallowed up by the abyss of time." The vast emptiness of space, the endless cycles of creation and dissolution. How small is the corner of the universe you inhabit, and how tiny your share of infinite time. He wasn't being bleak, he was being strategic. By contemplating the cosmos, his own political struggles, his aches and pains, and even the mighty Roman Empire itself were revealed as fleeting, temporary specks. This realization is incredibly liberating. The project that feels like a life or death deadline, the harsh word from a colleague that stings for days, the social slight that consumes your thoughts when viewed from the watchtower. These things lose their power to dominate your inner world. They become manageable, passing events rather than existential threats. Let's bring this down to earth with a practical example. Picture a stressful conflict at work. A team member publicly criticized your idea in a meeting, and you left feeling humiliated, angry, and defensive. Your mind is racing, replaying the moment and crafting rebuttals. This is the ground-level view where the problem feels enormous and all-encompassing. Now climb the watchtower, take a deep breath and expand your perspective. Ask yourself, will this matter in 1 week? Probably. In 1 year, perhaps only as a minor learning experience. In 10 years, it will likely be a forgotten blip if it's remembered at all. Then zoom out further. Think about the billions of people on the planet, each with their own complex lives, worries, and joys. Your meeting happened in one room, in one building, in one city. From this elevated view, the incident hasn't vanished, but its size has been corrected. It's no longer a giant monster blocking your path. it's a small rock on the trail. You can now step over it with ease, choosing a calm, strategic response instead of a heated, emotional one. This practice builds resilience because it fundamentally changes your relationship with adversity. You are no longer a leaf tossed about by every gust of wind. You are the watchtower itself, stable and unmoving, observing the weather patterns without being destroyed by them. The storm of a bad day might rage around you, but from your higher perspective, you can see its boundaries and know with certainty that it will pass. This is the quiet strength that comes from knowing your place in the cosmos, not as an insignificant being, but as a conscious participant in a vast, beautiful, and transient drama. Your role is to play your part well, but not to confuse your single line with the entire script. I want you to try this for yourself right now. Bring to mind a recent worry, a current stress that feels heavy and immediate. It could be a financial concern, a relationship tension, or a professional anxiety. Now, in your mind's eye, begin to zoom out. First, consider your life as a whole. How does this one issue fit into the entire story of who you are? Then, expand your view to your community, your country, the planet. Look back through history and forward into the future. From this immense cosmic perspective, how does the size and weight of your worry change? Does it feel as absolute and permanent? This isn't about making your problems disappear. It's about seeing them in their true proportion so you can address them from a place of empowered calm rather than overwhelmed fear. That shift in perspective is the ultimate defense of your inner citadel. What if you actively imagined everything going wrong, not as a form of anxious worrying, but as a deliberate, strategic exercise to fortify your mind against life's inevitable setbacks? This is the essence of the Stoic practice known as Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. Far from being a pessimistic doom spiral, this was a profound and practical tool kept in the armory of the Stoic mind, a way to inoculate themselves against the shock of misfortune by rehearsing it in advance. Seneca, who frequently practiced this mental preparation, offered a powerful insight into its value. He who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive. That's the entire goal in one sentence. By visiting the worst-case scenario in the safe theater of your own imagination, you rob the actual event of its element of surprise and its capacity to paralyze you. When trouble comes, it doesn't find you wide-eyed and unprepared. It finds you ready because you've already been there and mapped the terrain. This process works on two powerful psychological levels. First, it acts as an incredible antidote to fear. Fear is often fueled by the unknown, by the terrifying stories we tell ourselves about what might happen. Premeditatio Malorum forces you to move from vague, abstract dread to concrete, detailed scenarios. You don't just fear failure, you vividly imagine the specific steps of your project falling apart, the critical feedback you might receive, and the feeling of disappointment. And crucially, you then imagine yourself navigating that scenario with calmness and resilience. You see yourself absorbing the blow, adapting your plan, and moving forward. This rehearsal transforms the monstrous, unknown failure into a manageable, if unpleasant, series of events that you already know how to handle. You've already lived through it in your mind and survived. The second profound effect is on gratitude. By regularly contemplating the loss of the things you cherish, your health, your loved ones, your career, your comfort, you suddenly see them all in a brilliant new light. The simple fact that you have them right now becomes a source of deep, present moment appreciation. Your morning coffee isn't just a routine, it's a gift you've consciously imagined being without. We can see modern, high-performing versions of this practice all around us. Elite athletes don't just visualize winning, They spend countless hours mentally rehearsing everything that could go wrong: a missed shot, a bad call from a referee, a sudden change in weather. By pre-living these potential setbacks, they build neural pathways that allow them to stay focused and execute their skills under immense pressure, turning potential panic into poise. Similarly, a professional preparing for a major presentation might use this technique by sitting quietly and imagining the projector failing, the audience looking bored, or being asked a question they can't answer. Instead of being crippled by these thoughts, they use them to prepare contingencies. They have a backup copy of their slides, they craft more engaging stories, and they practice saying, "That's an excellent question. I'll need to look into that," with confidence. The adversity becomes part of the plan, not a deviation from it. The true power of this exercise lies in its silent, proactive nature. While everyone else is hoping for the best, you are actively preparing for the worst, and in doing so, you are building a mental resilience that makes the best-case scenario even sweeter, and the worst-case scenario far less intimidating. Your inner armory is stocked with proven strategies for hardship, so you can face the world not with blind optimism, but with quiet, unshakable confidence. To truly integrate this Stoic tool into your own life, I encourage you to try a very practical experiment. Think of an upcoming event that holds some anxiety for you: a difficult conversation, a job interview, a travel day. Now set aside 5 minutes of quiet time. Close your eyes and vividly imagine the worst-case scenario unfolding in detail. See it, feel it, hear it. Then imagine yourself navigating it with stoic calm. You are accepting what you cannot change, focusing only on your reasoned response, and acting with integrity. When you open your eyes, notice how you feel. Does the event seem as frightening? You'll likely find that by visiting the depths of your fear voluntarily, you have actually built a ladder to climb back out, leaving you more prepared and less anxious than ever before. How much of your emotional state is dictated by others? Think about that for a moment. Does a critical comment from a colleague ruin your afternoon? Does the bad mood of a family member instantly become your own? For many of us, our inner peace feels like a fragile boat tossed on the waves of other people's words and actions. The Stoics recognized this vulnerability and constructed a powerful defense against it: the moat of emotional boundaries. This isn't about building walls to keep people out. It's about digging a deep, clear space around your inner citadel, a space that gives you the room to choose your response, no matter what is being hurled at you from the outside. It is the conscious practice of declaring, "Your opinion is yours, but my peace is mine." The foundational principle here comes directly from the teachings of the slave-turned-philosopher Epictetus, who put it with breathtaking simplicity. Remember, it is not he who gives abuse or blows who affronts, but the view we take of these things as insulting. Therefore, if another provokes you, be assured that it is your own opinion which is provoking you. Let that sink in. He is saying that the harm we feel from criticism, disrespect, or negativity is not inherent in the action itself. The harm occurs only when we grant that external event permission to cross our emotional boundary and define our inner state. We hand over the keys to our own tranquility. The moat is that conscious space where you stop that handoff. You see the insult coming, you watch it splash into the moat, and you decide whether to let it reach the fortress walls or not. This is the essence of emotional autonomy. Consider a modern scenario we all know too well: social media. You post something you're proud of, a personal achievement, a creative project, a thoughtful opinion. Then you see the notification. A stranger has left a harsh, dismissive, or outright cruel comment. The immediate, visceral reaction is often a surge of anger, defensiveness, or self-doubt. Your heart rate jumps, your day is suddenly derailed. This is the old way, the reactive way, where your boundary has been breached. Now, apply the Stoic Moat. The event is the comment. Your opinion, your emotional boundary is where your power lies. You can choose to see that comment for what it is, the reflection of a stranger's inner world, their own frustrations and biases, which have absolutely nothing to do with your inherent worth or the value of your work. You can read it, acknowledge it, and simply let it sit in the moat. You don't have to engage with it, internalize it, or let it poison your inner silence. You can, with practice, even feel a flicker of pity for the unhappiness that must fuel such a need to lash out. This isn't suppression, it's selective engagement. You are choosing what deserves to influence your inner world. This practice extends far beyond the digital realm into our daily interactions. Imagine working with a consistently negative or toxic person. Their cynicism is a constant drip, 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 threatening to erode your own motivation and outlook. The untrained mind absorbs this energy, and soon you find yourself complaining and seeing only problems. The Stoic, however, digs their moat deeper. They interact with this person professionally and courteously, but they consciously refuse to let the pessimism cross their emotional boundary. They might listen, but they do not internalize. They maintain their own inner narrative of purpose and possibility, protecting it from the invasion of another's gloom. They understand that the other person's attitude is their choice and their own response is theirs. Crafting this kind of boundary is an active, daily practice of mental discipline. It starts with the simple but powerful act of pausing between stimulus and response. In that pause, you ask yourself a version of Epictetus's question: am I choosing to be harmed by this? The answer will often guide you back to your own agency. To make this real for your own life this week, I want you to conduct a small audit of your emotional boundaries. Identify one specific area or relationship where you feel your peace is most easily disturbed. Is it a particular family member's habits, the constant stream of alarming news headlines? The competitive culture at your workplace. Once you've identified it, make a conscious plan. Your plan might be a simple mental mantra like, "Their opinion is not my truth," or a practical step like limiting your exposure to news to 10 minutes a day. The goal is to move from passive victimhood to active guardianship. You are not trying to control the other person or the external event. You are strengthening your own gates and deepening your own moat, ensuring that your inner silence remains yours to command. Some battles aren't meant to be fought, they're meant to be accepted. This is the quiet power of the Stoic keystone, the principle that holds the entire architecture of your inner fortress together. Acceptance, in the Stoic sense, is perhaps one of the most misunderstood of all their teachings. It is not passive resignation, not a sigh of defeat or a shrug of indifference. It is instead a brilliant and strategic reallocation of your most precious resources, your attention, your effort, and your mental energy. It is the conscious decision to stop trying to change the unchangeable and to redirect that power toward what you can actually influence, your own judgments and actions. This is how you foster a profound and unshakable inner calm right in the middle of life's inevitable chaos. The great teacher Epictetus, who knew more than most about facing circumstances beyond his control, gave us the perfect formula for this. He said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." This simple directive draws the most important line you will ever learn to draw. On one side is everything within your control, your opinions, your impulses, your desires, your aversions. On the other side is everything not within your control, your body, your possessions, your reputation, your status, and every single event in the external world. The frustration and anxiety we feel in life almost always stem from blurring this line, from exhausting ourselves trying to control the uncontrollable. while neglecting the absolute sovereignty we have over our own inner world. Acceptance is the act of cleaning that line, of seeing the world with clear eyes and choosing to engage only where your effort will actually make a difference. Let's make this vividly practical. You're driving to an incredibly important meeting, one you've prepared for weeks. You've left what you thought was plenty of time, but now you're sitting in completely gridlocked traffic due to an accident far ahead. The event, the traffic jam, is entirely outside your control. You cannot teleport your car, you cannot clear the accident, you cannot turn back time. The untrained mind reacts to this by fighting the reality. It pounds the steering wheel, it cycles through rage and panic, it imagines all the terrible consequences of being late. This reaction consumes a massive amount of mental energy, leaves you drained and flustered, and achieves absolutely nothing. The traffic remains. The Stoic, having practiced acceptance, draws the line. They see the situation for what it is, an uncontrollable external event. They immediately accept it as fact. This acceptance is not them saying they like being stuck. It's them acknowledging that they are stuck. This simple acknowledgement is like releasing a valve. The wasted energy of resistance stops. Now, with a calm mind, they can focus on what is within their control. They can use the time to mentally rehearse their presentation. They can call ahead to politely notify the attendees they've been delayed. They can even use the moment to practice a minute of mindful breathing. The circumstance hasn't changed, but their entire experience of it has, because they have wisely accepted what they cannot change. This principle applies to so much of modern life. The sudden change in a project deadline handed down from management, the rainy weather that cancels your outdoor plans, the flight delay that strands you in an airport, these are all modern versions of the storms and shipwrecks the ancient Stoics wrote about. Our resistance to them, our mental arguing with reality, is what creates the vast majority of our suffering. Acceptance is the tool that ends that argument. It allows you to stop shouting at the storm and start adjusting your sails. It conserves your energy for the battles you can actually win, like maintaining your composure, adapting your plan, and choosing a virtuous response. This is the keystone because without it, the entire structure is unstable. Without acceptance, you will constantly be at war with reality. And that is a war you can never win. So I invite you to a small but profound act of construction for your own inner citadel. Sometime today, you will almost certainly encounter a small, unavoidable inconvenience. It might be a long line at the coffee shop, a slow internet connection, a sudden downpour without an umbrella. When it happens, I want you to consciously practice this Stoic acceptance. The moment you feel that initial flicker of frustration, pause, take a breath, silently say to yourself, "This is what is happening, I cannot change this fact." Feel the resistance melt away, then ask yourself, what is within my power right now? Maybe it's simply choosing to be patient, or finding a quiet moment to gather your thoughts, or even just appreciating the chance to pause. By doing this, you are not being passive, you are being powerfully active in the only arena that truly matters, your own mind. You are placing the keystone of acceptance, securing the strength of your entire structure, and proving to yourself that your peace does not depend on everything going right, but on your wise response when things go wrong. The fire that melts butter forges steel. This simple, powerful truth lies at the heart of the Stoic view on adversity. Where most people see only hardship, setback, and pain, the Stoic sees a hidden curriculum, a necessary forge where raw character is tempered into unbreakable strength. They understood that a life without obstacles is not a blessing, but a poverty of experience. It is in the struggle itself that we discover what we are truly made of, building the mental fortitude required for a virtuous life not through theory, but through the silent, gritty endurance of real challenge. Comfort may be pleasant, but it is in discomfort that we grow. Marcus Aurelius, who faced relentless political turmoil, constant war, and profound personal loss, framed this idea with unforgettable clarity. He wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is not a passive platitude. It is an active command to reframe our entire relationship with difficulty. The obstacle is not a roadblock to be lamented. It is the very path we are meant to walk. The criticism that could shatter your confidence becomes the way to practice humility and discernment. The financial setback that creates anxiety becomes the way to cultivate frugality and resourcefulness. The illness that weakens the body becomes the way to strengthen the spirit and appreciate health. The obstacle in the Stoic view is the training. It is the curriculum itself. We see this philosophy lived out dramatically in the lives of the Stoics themselves. Consider Seneca, one of the most powerful and wealthy men in Rome. He was suddenly accused of adultery with the emperor's niece and sentenced to exile on the barren island of Corsica for 8 long years. This was a catastrophic fall from grace, a professional, social, and personal destruction that would break most people. Yet, in his writings from exile, Seneca did not wallow in self-pity or rage against the injustice. Instead, he treated it as the ultimate test of his philosophy. He used the isolation to deepen his studies, the hardship to practice poverty and detachment, and the injustice to strengthen his inner independence from the opinions of others. His exile was his forge. He emerged not a broken man, but a wiser, more resilient, and more profound thinker, his character tested and proven true. This transformative approach to adversity is not confined to ancient history. We see it in the modern stories of resilience that inspire us most. The entrepreneur whose first several ventures fail spectacularly, only to use those lessons to build a truly impactful company. The athlete who suffers a devastating injury and must learn to walk again, discovering a depth of patience and determination they never knew they possessed. The individual who faces a profound personal loss and, from that depths of grief, finds a renewed purpose in helping others navigate similar pain. In each case, the adversity was not the end of the story. It was the fire that forged a stronger, more compassionate, and more purposeful version of themselves. They did not simply survive their difficulty, they were fundamentally reshaped by it, finding that what stood in the way had indeed become the way forward. This shift in perspective is perhaps the most powerful tool you can add to your own mental armory. It turns you from a passive victim of circumstance into an active participant in your own growth. The challenge is no longer something happening to you. It is happening for you, providing the raw material you need to build a stronger character. So I want you to try this reframing for yourself right now. Bring to mind a current difficulty you are facing. It might be a source of stress at work, a tension in a relationship, a financial pressure, or a personal goal that feels out of reach. Now, instead of viewing it as a problem to be eliminated, ask yourself, how can this very obstacle become my way? What virtue could this difficulty be inviting me to practice? Is it patience, courage, persistence, creativity? Your stressful project is the way to practice focus and calm under pressure. That difficult conversation you need to have is the way to practice honest communication and courage. That financial constraint is the way to practice gratitude for what you have and ingenuity in your choices. By seeing the forge in the fire, you reclaim your power. You stop fighting the heat and start allowing it to transform you. What does your inner voice say when things go wrong? Does it spiral into panic, unleashing a torrent of criticism and catastrophic predictions? Or does it respond with measured calm, offering perspective and steady guidance? This internal conversation is the very heart of Stoic practice, the continuous, silent dialogue of reason that acts as the chief engineer within your mental fortress, constantly reinforcing the walls and ensuring the structure remains sound. The Stoics understood that our initial, raw emotional reactions are natural and unavoidable, but they are not the final word. The space between that initial spark of feeling and our ultimate response is where our freedom lies, and it is in that space that we must deploy a voice of compassionate, rational clarity. Epictetus, who focused intensely on the practical application of these ideas, gave us the perfect manual for this inner work. He taught, "It is not events that disturb people, but their judgments concerning them." But he didn't stop there. He provided the tool for changing those judgments. Don't let the force of an impression when it first hits you knock you off your feet. Just say to it, "Hold on a moment, let me see who you are and what you represent. Let me put you to the test." This is the essence of Stoic self-talk. It is not about suppressing emotion. It is about engaging it in a reasoned conversation. It is the conscious act of becoming a gentle but firm interrogator of your own thoughts, challenging their validity and asking if they are truly serving your peace of mind. To see the stark difference this makes, let's contrast two versions of the same stressful modern scenario. Imagine you've just made a significant mistake during an important presentation at work. The reactive, untrained inner dialogue might sound like this: "I can't believe I did that. I've completely ruined everything. They must think I'm an absolute idiot. My credibility is destroyed. I'll probably get passed over for that promotion now." This is a cascade of unchecked emotion, a single event triggering a landslide of self-condemnation and fear about an imagined future. It feels overwhelming and paralyzing. Now, let's run that same event through the Stoic dialogue of reason. The initial gut punch of embarrassment is still felt. That's human. But then the reasoned voice gently steps in. "Okay, that was an error. It was uncomfortable, but it is now in the past and outside of my control. What is within my control right now? I can choose to finish this presentation with professionalism and focus. One mistake does not define my entire career or my worth. I have recovered from setbacks before, and I will do so again. What is one constructive step I can take after this meeting to address it?" Notice the shift. The first monologue is a storm that threatens the fortress. The second is the quiet, steady hand of the engineer making repairs and reinforcing the defenses. Cultivating this voice is a practice of immense kindness and strength. It is about learning to speak to yourself with the same calm, supportive reason you would offer a good friend in distress. You wouldn't tell a friend who made a mistake that they are a total failure. You would likely help them put the event in perspective and plan a way forward. This is the self-compassionate element of Stoicism that is often overlooked. The goal is not to become a cold, unfeeling logic machine, but to integrate reason and emotion, allowing your wiser self to guide your more reactive self back to a place of calm and agency. Your inner citadel is not a silent, empty vault. It is a space for the most important conversation you will ever have. The one that determines whether you are ruled by chaos or grounded in unwavering strength. The power of this practice lies in its immediacy. You can begin applying it in the very next moment of stress you encounter. So here is a simple but profound invitation. For just one day, make it your mission to become a passive observer of your own inner voice. Carry a small notebook or use your phone's notes app. Throughout the day, especially when you feel a flicker of frustration, anxiety, or anger, pause and jot down the exact words your inner critic is using. Then, later in the calm of the evening, review what you wrote. Look at those reactive phrases and for each one, ask yourself, was that thought truly rational? Was it helpful? How might my wiser, Stoic self have reframed that same situation with reason and compassion? This act of observation is the first and most crucial step. You cannot change a voice you do not first acknowledge. By bringing this inner dialogue into the light, you begin to reclaim the authority over it, slowly transforming the critical noise into the steady, reassuring guidance that is the true mark of inner fortitude. Your character is the ultimate guardian of your peace. While the previous tools and practices we've explored, detachment, presence, acceptance, are the bricks and mortar of your inner fortress. The four cardinal virtues of Stoicism are the master blueprint that ensures the entire structure is sound, aligned, and purposeful. Wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance are not abstract ideals to be admired from a distance. They are the active, guiding principles that shape every decision, big and small. When you consciously align your actions with these virtues, you are not just building strength, you are building a life of integrity, where your inner world and outer actions are in complete harmony. This integrity is the source of the deepest, most unshakable resilience, because you are no longer fighting against yourself. Your silent moral compass always points true north, allowing you to navigate any storm with unwavering confidence. Marcus Aurelius, who carried the immense weight of an empire, constantly returned to this foundational truth. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be." B1. This is the Stoic call to action. The highest good is not a philosophical debate. It is the daily, practical embodiment of virtue. For the Stoics, virtue was not merely a part of a good life, it was the entirety of it. Everything else, health, wealth, reputation, was considered a preferred indifferent, meaning it could be used virtuously or not, but it was not essential to a life well lived. Your virtue, your character, was the only thing that was truly, completely yours, and the only thing that constituted real good. This might sound extreme, but it is incredibly freeing. It means your resilience and your worth are never dependent on external circumstances. They are built from the inside out, through the consistent choice to act with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, regardless of what is happening around you. Let's make these virtues breathtakingly practical, moving them from ancient concepts to everyday choices. Start with wisdom. This isn't about having a vast store of knowledge. It's about practical, discerning judgment. It's the wisdom to know when to speak and when to listen, to distinguish between a real problem and a trivial irritation, to choose a thoughtful response over a reactive one. Imagine you receive a work email that feels unfairly critical. The unwise reaction is to fire off a defensive reply. The virtuous, wise action is to pause, consider the sender's perspective, sleep on it, and craft a measured response the next day. That pause is an act of wisdom that protects your peace. Next, courage. Stoic courage is not the absence of fear, but the determination to act rightly in spite of it. It's the courage to have that difficult conversation you've been avoiding, to admit when you are wrong, to stand up for someone who is being treated unfairly, even when it's socially risky. It's not about grand, heroic gestures, but the quiet bravery of upholding your principles in the face of discomfort or social pressure. Choosing to give honest, constructive feedback to a colleague, knowing it might be momentarily awkward, is an act of courage that strengthens your integrity and ultimately your relationships. Then justice. This is the virtue of living with fairness, kindness, and concern for the common good. It's about how you treat everyone, from your CEO to the barista making your coffee. It's the decision to give someone the benefit of the doubt, to do your fair share of the work without complaint, to speak with kindness even when you're tired and stressed. A simple example: you notice a cashier has given you too much change. The convenient choice is to pocket it. The just choice, the one that aligns with your inner guardian, is to point out the mistake and return the money. That small act reinforces your self-respect and tells your character that your peace is more valuable than a few extra dollars. Finally, temperance. This is the practice of self-discipline and moderation. It's the power to exercise restraint over your impulses and desires. It's choosing to have one drink instead of 3, to walk away from a pointless argument, to log off social media after 20 minutes instead of mindlessly scrolling for 2 hours. It's the virtue that says enough. When you practice temperance, you are declaring that you are in command of your appetites, not the other way around. This self-command is a direct source of inner strength because it proves to you, moment by moment, that you are the author of your actions. The true power of these virtues is revealed in their synergy. They work together as an integrated system, your personal board of directors for the soul. Wisdom helps you discern the right path. Courage gives you the strength to walk it. Justice ensures you do no harm along the way. And temperance keeps you from being pulled off course by distraction or desire. Every time you make a choice guided by even one of these virtues, you are silently voting for the kind of person you want to be. You are strengthening the guardian that protects your inner citadel from internal corruption, which is the most dangerous threat of all. So I want to leave you with a question that invites you to become the architect of your own character. Look at these 4 virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Which one feels like it could use a little more reinforcement in your life right now? Is it the courage to set a better boundary, the temperance to manage your screen time, the justice to be more fair in your judgments of others? Pick just one. Then, for the next week, make it your gentle focus. Look for one small, everyday opportunity to exercise that specific muscle. Notice how making that conscious, virtuous choice, however minor it seems, doesn't just change the outcome of a situation, it changes you. It adds another layer of unbreakable stone to your inner walls, manned by a guardian whose strength is your own. In silence, gratitude speaks loudest. It is not a loud, celebratory shout, but a deep, resonant hum of contentment that fills the chambers of a fortified mind. The Stoics understood that the endless pursuit of what we lack is a sure path to anxiety and dissatisfaction, a constant state of wanting that weakens our mental walls. To counter this, they deliberately cultivated a profound reservoir of gratitude, not as a passive feeling, but as an active and disciplined practice. This was their strategic defense against the entropy of desire, a way to anchor themselves firmly in the abundant reality of the present moment, thereby solidifying their inner peace and emotional balance. Seneca, who enjoyed immense wealth but never became enslaved by it, captured the essence of this practice perfectly. He advised, "True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future, to balance the delights of having with the pleasure of not wanting." This is the Stoic twist on gratitude. It's not just about being thankful for the good things you possess. It's about actively finding a quiet joy in the very act of not needing more. It is the conscious realization that your peace does not reside in the next acquisition, the next promotion, or the next vacation, but is available to you right now, in the simple fact of your existence and the small, often overlooked gifts that surround you. This practice drains the power from future anxieties and past regrets by flooding the present with appreciation. We can see this ancient wisdom reflected in countless modern practices, all designed to rewire our brains away from a scarcity mindset and toward a state of abundance. The popularity of gratitude journaling, for instance, is a direct descendant of the Stoic Evening Review. Instead of just cataloging errors, you consciously dedicate time to list a few specific things you are grateful for that day. The key is in the specificity. It's not enough to write, "I'm grateful for my family." The Stoic depth comes from writing, "I'm grateful for the 5 minutes of laughter I shared with my daughter over breakfast this morning." or I'm grateful for the warmth of the sun on my face during my walk. This level of detail forces you to truly relive and savor the experience, strengthening its positive neural pathways. Other practices include mindful appreciation, pausing during a daily activity like drinking coffee to fully immerse yourself in the sensation and silently acknowledge your gratitude for it. This transforms a routine act into a small meditation on sufficiency. The profound strength built from this reservoir is that it makes you emotionally shock-proof. When you regularly practice gratitude, you are essentially making regular deposits into your emotional savings account. Then, when hardship inevitably comes, a professional setback, a personal conflict, a day of general frustration, you have a deep reserve of contentment to draw from. You are not rendered destitute by a single negative event because your sense of well-being is not tied to it. Your inner stability is founded on 100 small, good things you've trained yourself to notice and cherish. The criticism from a colleague might sting, but it cannot erase your gratitude for your health, for the comfort of your home, or for the loyal friend who checked in on you. This doesn't eliminate the pain, but it contains it, preventing it from consuming your entire mental landscape. To truly begin filling your own reservoir, I invite you to a simple but transformative exercise. Before this day ends, I want you to pause the noise, find a moment of quiet, and bring to mind 3 specific things you are genuinely grateful for from the last 24 hours. They must be small and concrete, not my health, but the feeling of strength in my legs during my walk, not my job, but the satisfying click of finally solving that tricky problem at work. Hold each one in your mind for a full breath and allow the feeling of appreciation to wash over you. This is not about manufacturing false positivity. It is about truthfully acknowledging the good that already exists within your life. This daily act of silent acknowledgement is how you build an unassailable foundation of contentment, ensuring that no matter what storms rage outside, your inner world remains nourished and strong. Are you acting by design or by default? This is the crucial question at the heart of Stoic intentionality, the difference between being a passive passenger in your own life and becoming the conscious architect of your actions. So much of our daily behavior is reactive, a series of automatic responses triggered by external events. A frustrating email sparks an angry reply. A sudden inconvenience derails our mood. A tempting distraction pulls us from our purpose. The Stoics saw this impulsivity as a major weakness in the architecture of our inner fortress, a loose gate that allows any invading thought or emotion to storm the walls. Their solution was to install the architect of intentional action, the disciplined practice of pausing between stimulus and response to ensure that every action, no matter how small, is chosen deliberately and aligned with your deepest values. Epictetus, who focused intensely on the gap between impulse and action, gave us the perfect blueprint for this work. He taught, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This simple instruction contains a profound 2-step process for intentional living. First, you must define your character, the person you aspire to be, the virtues you wish to embody. This is your design. Then, and only then, do you take action, ensuring that every deed is a direct reflection of that design. This prevents you from being tossed about by every wind of circumstance. Your actions are no longer desperate reactions. They are thoughtful, purposeful creations. You are building your character with every single choice, laying one intentional brick at a time. Consider a scenario we all know too well, responding to provocation. Imagine you're in a meeting and a colleague dismisses your idea in a condescending or overly harsh way. The default, reactive setting for most of us is to feel a hot surge of anger and ego. The impulsive action is to fire back with a sharp retort, to defend your position aggressively, or to shut down and seethe silently. This reaction feels powerful in the moment, but it's actually a form of weakness. You have handed control of your emotions and your behavior over to someone else. The Stoic architect, however, would pause in that crucial space between the provocation and the response. They would consult their design. I wish to be a person of patience, wisdom, and justice. Then they would choose an action that aligns with that design. This might mean taking a calm breath and saying, I appreciate the feedback. Let's explore your concerns further so I can understand your perspective. This isn't passive, it's powerfully intentional. It de-escalates the situation, maintains your dignity, and demonstrates command over your own reactions. You are not being a doormat, you are being a master builder, consciously choosing the materials, your words and actions, that will construct a stronger outcome. This practice of intentional action extends far beyond conflict into the very fabric of our daily routines. How do you choose to spend the first hour of your morning? On default, it might be spent mindlessly scrolling through a phone, absorbing the world's chaos before you've even had a chance to center yourself. Acting by design, you might intentionally choose to spend that hour in silence, reading, journaling, or planning your day with purpose. What about your lunch break? The default is to eat at your desk while working. The intentional action is to step away, savor your food without screens, and truly rest, thereby honoring your value of temperance and self-care. Even something as simple as your commute can be transformed from a frustrating default of road rage into an intentional opportunity to listen to an inspiring podcast or practice mindful presence. Every one of these small, deliberate choices is a vote for the person you want to become. They are the quiet, daily labor of constructing a life of meaning, one where your actions are not dictated by external triggers but are flowing outward from your internal compass. This is the ultimate strength of the Stoic architect, the power of alignment. When your actions are in perfect harmony with your professed values, you build a formidable integrity. There is no inner conflict, no cognitive dissonance draining your mental energy. You experience a profound sense of coherence and purpose because you are living your design. Your inner citadel is not just a defensive structure, it is a dynamic workshop where you are actively, intentionally crafting a virtuous life. To put this blueprint to work in your own life, I want you to look toward tomorrow. Identify one single, routine part of your day where you often find yourself acting on autopilot. It could be how you start your workday, how you interact with a particular family member, or how you unwind in the evening. For that one area, make a conscious decision tonight about how you will act with intention tomorrow. Decide on the virtue you want to embody. Perhaps it's patience, focus, or kindness, and visualize yourself carrying out that intentional action. Then tomorrow, when that moment arrives, remember your design, pause, and choose it. That one conscious act is you laying a cornerstone for a stronger, more deliberate, and truly self-authored life. Like a lighthouse in a storm, equanimity stands unwavering. While the world rages with chaos, uncertainty, and relentless demands, this inner beacon remains a fixed point of calm, casting a steady light that guides you safely through the turbulence. For the Stoics, this wasn't a mystical state reserved for enlightened masters. It was the practical, achievable result of diligent mental training. They called this state apatheia, not the apathy we think of today, but a profound freedom from being at the mercy of destructive passions. It is the cultivated ability to experience life's full spectrum of events without being internally overthrown by them, to feel the waves of emotion without allowing them to capsize your inner vessel. This equanimity is the silent, radiant power that emanates from a well-fortified mind, proving that true strength is not the absence of feeling, but the mastery of response. Marcus Aurelius, who faced endless political intrigue, the threat of invasion, and profound personal grief, constantly returned to this ideal as his anchor. He counseled himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And elsewhere he wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." These two insights form the complete picture of Stoic equanimity. First, you must deeply internalize the fundamental distinction between what is within your control, your judgments and actions, and what is not, everything else. Second, you must vigilantly guard the quality of your thoughts, for they are the artists that color your entire experience of reality. A mind disciplined to focus on virtuous action and to accept external events with grace will naturally radiate a steady, unshakable calm. This is not a passive state of numbness, it is an active, dynamic equilibrium. We can find powerful examples of this Stoic composure throughout history, often in the most trying of circumstances. Consider the demeanor of figures like Nelson Mandela, who emerged from 27 years of imprisonment not with bitterness, but with a poised determination to build a new nation. Or the legendary calm of airline pilot Captain Chesley Sullenberger, who, upon losing both engines minutes after takeoff, didn't panic or rage against the impossibility of his situation. He later recounted the deep, abiding calm that settled over him as he assessed his options and glided his plane safely onto the Hudson River, saving every life on board. His training had become so integrated that his response was not a frantic reaction, but a series of deliberate, chosen actions. This is equanimity in its modern, life-saving form, the ability to access clarity and precision precisely when chaos is at its peak. This steadiness isn't a genetic trait bestowed on a lucky few. It is a skill forged in the countless small moments of daily life. It's the practice of taking a single deep breath before responding to a provoking email. It's the conscious decision to go for a walk to cool down during a heated argument rather than saying something you'll regret. It's the mental note to yourself while stuck in traffic, "This is outside my control." Getting angry will only harm me. Each of these tiny victories is a brick added to your lighthouse, making it taller and stronger. The goal is not to never feel anger, frustration, or anxiety. That would be inhuman. The goal is to notice those feelings arising and to consciously choose not to let them take the helm. You acknowledge the storm, but you refuse to let it dictate your course. Now bring this concept into your own experience. I want you to take a moment and recall a specific time in the recent past when you felt your equanimity shatter. Perhaps it was a sudden piece of bad news, a careless comment from a loved one that hit a nerve, or a professional setback that sent you into a spiral of worry. Replay that moment in your mind. What was the initial trigger? How did your body feel? What was the narrative your mind instantly started spinning? Now, with the clarity of hindsight, imagine applying the Stoic beacon. What if, in that critical moment, you had remembered Marcus Aurelius's words? What if you had paused to ask, what part of this situation can I actually control? And then channeled all your energy solely into that. This isn't about self-criticism for losing your cool. It's about hopeful preparation. By revisiting these moments and re-scripting them with a Stoic mindset, you are actively building the neural pathways that will make this calm, reasoned response your new default when the next storm inevitably arrives. Your validation should come from within, not from others. This might be one of the most challenging yet liberating principles of Stoic philosophy, striking directly at the heart of our modern anxieties. We live in a world meticulously engineered to keep us looking outward for cues on our worth, likes on a post, promotions at work, praise from peers, the approving nod of society. The Stoics identified this external seeking as a fundamental leak in our inner fortress, a crack through which our tranquility constantly drains away. Their solution was to build an unshakable foundation of self-reliance, a deep, internal wellspring of contentment that remains full regardless of whether the outside world offers rain or drought. This isn't about becoming arrogant or dismissing the value of community. It's about shifting the very source of your self-assurance from the fickle opinions of others to the steady, unwavering judgment of your own reasoned character. Epictetus, who began his life as a slave and therefore understood the perils of having his worth dictated by external status more than most, laid out this idea with stunning clarity. He said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." At first glance, this might seem obscure, but its meaning cuts deep in this context. If you think you already know your value because you have a certain number of followers, a prestigious job title, or a full social calendar, you have stopped learning your true worth. You've outsourced the answer to a fundamentally internal question. Epictetus is urging us to admit that we don't already know, to empty our cup of external validation and begin the true work of filling it from our own internal well. He continues this thread elsewhere, advising, "If you wish to be good, first believe that you are bad." This isn't a call for self-loathing. It's an invitation to humble self-assessment, to judge yourself by your own virtues and efforts, not by the applause or criticism that comes your way. Your contentment must be your own creation. Nowhere is the trap of external validation more visible than in our relationship with social media. The entire architecture of these platforms is built on a dopamine-driven economy of approval. We post a photo, a thought, an achievement, and then we wait. That waiting period is a silent auction of our self-worth. Each notification of a like or comment becomes a tiny, external vote on our value. A post that gets little engagement can subtly deflate our entire day, while one that goes viral can give us a fleeting, addictive high. This cycle creates a dependency, a psychological leash that ties our mood to the unpredictable reactions of an algorithm and an audience. The Stoic alternative is not to delete all your accounts and live as a hermit. Though a digital detox can be a powerful voluntary discomfort, the real shift is internal. It's about posting something because it aligns with your values of creativity or connection, and then consciously detaching from the outcome. The act of creation itself becomes the reward. The external metrics become neutral data, not a report card on your soul. Your sense of worth remains constant, anchored not in the shifting sands of public opinion, but in the bedrock of your own intentional action. This foundation of self-reliance transforms how you move through the world. Imagine two people working on the same project. One is primarily motivated by the potential for praise from their boss and peers. Their energy waxes and wanes with every piece of feedback. A critical comment crushes their motivation, while a compliment fuels a brief surge. Their emotional state is a roller coaster operated by others. The second person, practicing Stoic self-reliance, is motivated by their own internal standards of excellence, diligence, and virtue. They see feedback as useful information for improvement, but it doesn't fundamentally alter their core belief in their capacity or their worth. They can receive sharp criticism without crumbling and accept high praise without becoming addicted to it. Their energy is stable, sustainable, and self-generated. They are the calm captain of their own ship, not a passenger frantically scrambling based on the weather conditions outside. Building this foundation is a daily practice of redirection. It starts with catching yourself in the act of seeking validation. It's that moment you finish speaking in a meeting and look around the room to gauge reactions. It's the impulse to share a minor personal victory specifically to hear the confirming, "Well done." There's nothing inherently wrong with these moments, but they are clues that you might be looking outward for a confirmation you could be generating inward. The practice is to pause in that moment and offer yourself the validation you seek. Did you act with courage? Did you do your best? Did you stay true to your principles? If the answer is yes, that is your validation. It is immediate, unconditional, and cannot be taken away. This is how you pour the concrete for your foundation of self-reliance, one conscious, self-approving moment at a time. So let's bring this from the philosophical to the deeply personal. I want you to take a quiet moment and honestly ask yourself, in what one specific area of your life are you currently handing over the keys to your self-worth? Is it waiting for your partner to notice and appreciate your efforts around the house to feel like a good person? Is it needing your manager to acknowledge your hard work on a project to feel successful? Or is it the more diffuse but constant hum of comparing your life, your body, your career to the curated highlight reels of others online? Identify that one area. Now imagine what it would feel like to gently take that key back. How could you validate yourself in that same situation? Could you acknowledge your own effort? Could you take pride in simply having done the virtuous thing, regardless of whether it was seen or praised? This isn't about rejecting kindness from others. It's about no longer requiring it for your basic emotional survival. That shift from dependence to self-reliance is one of the most powerful renovations you will ever make to your inner citadel. Just as bricks form a wall, small acts of discipline build resilience. This is the quiet, cumulative work of the Stoic mason, the daily, often unnoticed practice of laying one virtuous habit upon another until, over time, they form an inner structure of immense strength and stability. The Stoics weren't searching for grand, heroic moments to prove their fortitude. They were dedicated to the humble, repetitive work of the everyday. They understood that character isn't forged in a single, dramatic fire, but in the countless small fires of daily choice. It is in these silent, consistent actions that we slowly but surely become the person we aspire to be, building a resilience that is not fragile or fleeting, but deeply embedded in the very fabric of our being. Seneca, a man who moved in the highest circles of power and wealth, never lost sight of the profound power of this daily labor. He wrote, "The pressure of adversity does not affect the mind of the brave man, for it has been trained in advance by the precepts of wisdom and by daily discipline." Notice the pairing, the precepts of wisdom and daily discipline. Knowledge alone is inert. It is the repeated application, the daily doing, that transforms philosophical understanding into lived strength. This discipline is the mortar that binds the bricks of knowledge together, creating a unified, impenetrable whole. It's the quiet practice of doing what is right, not because it is easy or celebrated, but simply because it is right, day after day after day. This consistency, practiced in silence, is what prepares the mind to remain unshaken when the pressure of true adversity finally comes. We can see this masonry at work in the simplest of modern routines. Consider the habit of waking up early, not to cram more frantic activity into your day, but to claim a silent hour of clarity for yourself, for reading, for planning your day with intention, or simply for sitting in stillness. That single act of choosing to get out of a warm bed when you could easily sleep in is a small brick of self-mastery. It is a daily vote for your priorities over your immediate comforts. Or consider the practice of a daily mindfulness meditation. Sitting for just 10 minutes to observe your breath isn't about achieving enlightenment. It's the daily workout for your attention muscle, training it to return to the present moment instead of being dragged into anxiety about the future or regret about the past. Each time you gently guide your focus back, you are laying another brick in the wall of your concentration and emotional regulation. But Stoic discipline extends far beyond these obvious practices into the very heart of our ethical lives. It's the discipline of pausing before sending an email tinged with frustration and choosing to rewrite it with clarity and respect. It's the discipline of doing one small piece of a daunting project now, rather than procrastinating out of fear. It's the discipline of listening fully to someone without mentally rehearsing your response. It's choosing a nutritious meal over junk food, not for aesthetics, but as a practice of respecting your body's temple. It's the discipline of ending your workday at a set time to protect your personal life, or putting your phone away during dinner to be fully present with your family. Each of these choices, however minor it seems, is a brick. None of them on their own appear to constitute greatness, but a wall is not made of a single brick. It is made of thousands, and a resilient character is not made of a single grand gesture, but of thousands of small, disciplined choices made consistently over a lifetime. The true magic of this process is that it operates below the level of conscious thought. At first, these acts require immense willpower. Getting up early is a struggle. Choosing the healthy option is a conscious fight, but with enough repetition, something remarkable happens. Discipline ceases to be a struggle and becomes an identity. You are no longer forcing yourself to get up early. You are simply a person who wakes up early. You are not resisting junk food. You are a person who eats well. The action and the self-concept fuse. This is the ultimate goal, for virtuous behavior to become so ingrained that it is your default setting. Your inner fortress then runs on autopilot, its defenses maintained not by exhausting acts of will, but by the silent, effortless strength of habit. This is how you build a resilience that doesn't drain you, but sustains you. The power to build this unshakable structure lies entirely in your hands, and it begins with a single, conscious choice. I want you to look at your own life and identify one tiny, manageable area where you can practice this Stoic masonry. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. That's how walls collapse. Choose one brick. Perhaps it's committing to making your bed each morning as a first act of order. Maybe it's a 5-minute evening review in a journal. It could be a promise to take 3 deep breaths before responding in a conversation. Choose one small, disciplined action that aligns with the person you wish to become. Then for the next week, commit to laying that one brick every single day without fail. Pay attention not to the grandeur of the action, but to the quiet satisfaction of following through on a promise you made to yourself. Notice how this tiny act of self-command in one area begins to subtly strengthen your resolve in others. This is the masonry of discipline in action, the silent, steady construction of an inner citadel that will stand long after the storms have passed. When was the last time you truly spent time alone with your thoughts? Not just physically by yourself while scrolling through a feed or listening to a podcast, but mentally and emotionally disconnected, in a state of pure, uninterrupted solitude. In our hyper-connected world, this kind of silence has become almost radical, something we often avoid or even fear. Yet for the Stoics, this voluntary withdrawal was not a form of antisocial isolation. It was a sacred practice, an inner sanctuary they deliberately entered to reconnect with their deepest selves, to renew their mental energy, and to forge the self-reliance that is the hallmark of a fortified mind. They understood that to be constantly available to the world is to be rarely available to yourself, and that without these regular returns to your own inner court, your mental resources become depleted, leaving you dependent on external noise for distraction and validation. Seneca, who moved through the bustling, political heart of the Roman Empire, was a fierce advocate for this necessary retreat. He wrote, "You must withdraw into yourself as much as you can." Associate with people who may improve you. Welcome those whom you can improve. The process is mutual, for people learn while they teach. Notice the beautiful nuance here. He isn't advocating for a permanent escape from society. He is prescribing a rhythmic balance, a conscious withdrawal so that you can return to your interactions more present, more grounded, and more capable of genuine contribution. He saw solitude as the essential counterweight to social life, the quiet space where you digest your experiences, untangle your judgments, and remember who you are beneath all the roles you play for others. This is solitude as active rejuvenation, a strategic pause that makes all your engagements more meaningful. Now, contrast this intentional practice with the default state of modern life. Our solitude, what little we have, is almost always fractured and contaminated. We stand in line alone, but our eyes are glued to a screen, filling every spare second with incoming information. We eat a meal by ourselves while watching a show. We even walk somewhere with headphones in, ensuring a constant stream of external stimulation. This isn't solitude, it's merely physical isolation filled with digital crowds. We have conflated being alone with being lonely, and in our rush to avoid the latter, we have sacrificed the profound benefits of the former. The Stoic sanctuary is the polar opposite of this. It is the conscious decision to remove all these inputs, to sit in a room with nothing but your own mind as company, and to listen to the silence until you become reacquainted with the sound of your own thoughts. It is in this quiet space that you can finally hear your own wisdom. The practical power of this sanctuary is immense. Think of your mind as a glass of muddy water. Constant connectivity, social obligations, and the endless chase for stimulation are like sticks that keep stirring the water, ensuring the sediment never settles and the water never becomes clear. Solitude is the act of finally setting the glass down on a stable surface and allowing the stirring to stop. The sediment of anxiety, fragmented ideas, and reactive emotions slowly settles to the bottom, and what remains is clarity. From this place of clarity, your decisions become more deliberate, your creativity finds room to breathe, and your reactions become less impulsive. This is why so many great thinkers, artists, and leaders throughout history have credited their breakthrough ideas not to frantic collaboration, but to extended periods of purposeful alone time. They weren't running away, they were diving deep into their own inner reservoir to bring something valuable back to the surface. Building this sanctuary doesn't require a remote cabin in the woods. It can be found in the margins of your existing day. It might be the 15 minutes you spend with your morning coffee before anyone else in the house is awake, consciously avoiding your phone. It could be a walk around the block without any devices, simply observing the world and allowing your thoughts to wander and connect freely. It might be sitting in your car for a few extra minutes after you park, just breathing and collecting yourself before moving into your next environment. The key is intention. You are not just killing time, you are actively creating a pocket of non-stimulation for the specific purpose of reconnecting with yourself. So I want to offer you a direct and practical challenge, one that will allow you to experience the strength of this Stoic sanctuary for yourself. This week, I want you to deliberately schedule 2 short periods of solitude. Just 10 or 15 minutes each. Block them out in your calendar as you would any other important appointment. For these minutes, your only task is to be alone with your thoughts. No phone, no book, no music, no podcast. You can sit quietly, you can go for a walk, or you can simply stare out a window. It will feel strange at first. You might feel restless or bored. That's the sediment beginning to stir. Notice those feelings without judgment and simply allow them to be. After each session, take just 1 minute to jot down a note on how you felt. Did a solution to a problem suddenly appear? Did a lingering anxiety lose its edge? Did you simply feel a bit more centered? This small experiment is how you begin to reclaim this ancient source of power, building a sanctuary within yourself that you can return to anytime, anywhere, to find the clarity and calm that the noisy world cannot provide. Integrity is the silent compass that never leads you astray. In the architecture of your inner fortress, it is the one instrument that remains perfectly calibrated, pointing unfailingly toward true north no matter how fierce the storm or how thick the fog of external pressure. The Stoics understood that while skills, strategies, and mental disciplines are vital, they are ultimately hollow without this core alignment. Moral integrity is what gives your strength a purpose and your resilience a soul. It is the unwavering commitment to do what is right, not because it is easy, profitable, or praised, but simply because it is right. This consistency between your deepest values and your outward actions forges a resilient sense of self that cannot be shaken by the shifting opinions of others or the temptations of short-term gain. Marcus Aurelius, steering the vast Roman Empire through war and plague, constantly returned to this inner compass for guidance. He wrote in his private meditations, "Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter, cold or warm, tired or well-rested, despised or honored, dying or busy with other assignments." The breathtaking simplicity of this command cuts through all complexity. Your circumstances, your comfort, your reputation, even your very life are secondary. The primary, non-negotiable task is to act with integrity. For the Stoics, this wasn't a burdensome rule but a profound liberation. When your only metric for success is whether you acted virtuously, you are instantly freed from the anxiety of outcomes you cannot control. Your inner peace becomes independent of external results, anchored instead in the knowledge that you chose the right path. We often think of integrity in grand, dramatic terms, like the whistleblower who risks everything to expose corruption. And while that is a powerful example, the true strength of this compass is revealed in the countless small, everyday decisions that no one else sees. It's the choice to return the extra change a cashier accidentally gave you, even though you could easily pocket it without consequence. It's the decision to admit your mistake in a team project rather than quietly letting a colleague take the blame. It's honoring a promise you made to yourself, like going to the gym even when you're tired, because self-respect is the foundation of all integrity. These moments are the daily calibrations of your moral compass. Each time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you are not just doing a good deed, you are sending a powerful message to your own psyche. I am a person who can be trusted. My word is my bond, my actions align with my principles. This is how you build a self that is cohesive, reliable, and inherently strong. The resilience that springs from this practice is unique. If your sense of self-worth is built on being the smartest person in the room, a professional failure can shatter you. If it is built on being liked, a critical comment can unravel your day. But if your self-worth is built on your integrity, on the quiet knowledge that you strive to be honest, fair, and courageous in your dealings, then external events lose their power to define you. A project might fail, but you know you gave it your honest effort. Someone might dislike you, but you know you treated them with respect. This creates an inner citadel that is virtually impregnable to the slings and arrows of fortune. Your validation comes from within, from your own unwavering standard, making you both humble and unshakable. This is not about achieving moral perfection. It is about the relentless intention. You will make mistakes. You will sometimes choose convenience over principle. The Stoic practice is to acknowledge these missteps in your evening review without self-flagellation, to learn from them, and to recommit to your compass the next day. The goal is progress, not perfection, a gradual strengthening of your integrity muscle until acting with virtue becomes your most natural response. To truly feel the power of this in your own life, I invite you to a moment of quiet reflection. Look back over the last few days and bring to mind one decision, however small, where you consciously prioritized doing the right thing. It might have been telling an uncomfortable truth, refusing to participate in gossip, or simply doing a task thoroughly when no one was watching. Reconnect with the feeling you had afterward, that quiet sense of self-respect, that internal nod of approval. That is the feeling of your inner compass confirming your course. That is the silent, unshowy strength that comes from knowing your fortress is built on a foundation of rock. How much mental space do you give to things that don't truly matter? In our modern world, the trivial often masquerades as the urgent, clamoring for our attention with an intensity that far outweighs its actual importance. The ancient Stoics recognized this drain on our inner resources and developed a powerful defense against it, a mental shield of indifference to trivia. This wasn't about becoming apathetic or uninformed. It was about practicing a highly disciplined form of selective attention. They understood that our mental energy is a finite and precious resource, and to waste it on the insignificant is to rob our true priorities of the focus they deserve. It is the practice of consciously deciding what is worthy of your attention and what is merely noise, building a filter that allows only the meaningful to pass through to your inner citadel. The great teacher Epictetus, who focused intensely on the practical management of our inner world, gave us perhaps the clearest instruction on this. He said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. Don't wish to be thought to know anything and you will make progress." At first, this might sound counterintuitive, but his point is profound. Stop caring so much about the external markers of knowledge and status that don't contribute to your virtue or peace of mind. The opinion of a gossip, trivial. The need to have the last word in an online argument, trivial. The frustration over a minor slight you received in a crowded store, trivial. Epictetus is urging us to be willing to be seen as foolish by those who traffic in trivialities, because in doing so, you free up immense mental bandwidth for what truly matters, your own character, your judgments, and your actions. This is the ultimate application of the dichotomy of control, categorizing most external events as not just uncontrollable, but unworthy of your mental engagement in the first place. Let's bring this shield into the modern world, where the barrage of trivia is more relentless than ever. Consider the constant pull of news cycles that amplify outrage over insight, or social media feeds that thrive on controversy and gossip. Engaging with this content often feels productive, like we're staying informed or connected, but in reality, it's often a form of mental clutter. Each time you dive into a comment war about a celebrity's personal life, or anxiously refresh a news site for the latest minor update on a political drama, you are handing over a piece of your focus to something that has zero impact on your ability to live a virtuous life today. The Stoic practice would be to consciously limit this exposure, to see it for what it is, a distraction from your own purpose. Another potent example is the minor irritations of daily life, the coworker who consistently leaves a mess in the break room, the driver who cuts you off in traffic, the long line at your favorite coffee shop. Our untrained minds instinctively latch onto these events, turning them over and over, narrating a story of injustice and frustration that can dominate our thoughts for hours. The shield of indifference allows you to see the event, acknowledge it as a minor inconvenience, and then consciously let it go. You choose not to build a story around it. You refuse to grant it the power to alter your inner state. This practice builds an incredible capacity for deep focus. When you train your mind to disregard the trivial, you are essentially strengthening your attention muscle. You become less reactive and more proactive, able to direct your cognitive resources toward your true goals, completing a meaningful project, engaging in a deep conversation with a loved one, or simply enjoying a moment of quiet reflection. The trivial will always be there, buzzing at the periphery, but with this Stoic shield raised, it becomes mere background noise, unable to penetrate your concentration or disrupt your calm. You stop sweating the small stuff not through suppression, but through a superior reallocation of your attention. So I want to offer you a direct and practical way to forge this shield for yourself today. Take a moment of honest reflection and identify one single, trivial worry or distraction that has recently occupied space in your mind. Maybe it's a lingering annoyance about an offhand comment someone made days ago. Perhaps it's the anxious checking of likes on a social media post. It could be the mental energy you're spending worrying about an opinion you have no control over. Now make a conscious decision to actively release your grip on it. Visualize it as a small, weightless object in your hand, and then simply open your fingers and let it fall away. You are not ignoring a real problem. You are declaring that this particular thought does not deserve a place in your mental fortress. This small act of conscious release is a powerful declaration of sovereignty over your own mind, reinforcing the shield that protects your most valuable resource, your peace. Wisdom is the lamp that illuminates the path through darkness. It is the steady, guiding light within your mental fortress that allows you to see the world clearly, to distinguish the true path from the treacherous one, and to navigate life's complexities with confidence and calm. For the Stoics, wisdom was not merely an abstract intellectual pursuit. It was the most practical and essential tool for human flourishing. They defined it not as the accumulation of facts, but as a deep, working understanding of three fundamental things: the nature of the universe, the patterns of human behavior, and most importantly, the inner workings of oneself. This is the light that allows you to see events for what they truly are, to anticipate the likely outcomes of different choices, and to respond to any situation not with blind impulse, but with informed, virtuous intention. Seneca, who wrote extensively on the application of philosophy to daily life, emphasized that this wisdom is an active, lifelong endeavor. He advised, as long as you live, keep learning how to live. This simple sentence contains a universe of Stoic thought. It tells us that wisdom is not a destination you arrive at, but a continuous process of refinement. It is the humble admission that no matter how much we think we know, there is always more to understand about how to live well, how to reduce suffering, and how to contribute positively to the world around us. This practical wisdom, or phronsis, is what allows us to translate our knowledge of virtue into effective action in the messy, unpredictable reality of our daily lives. It is the difference between knowing you should be courageous and knowing how to be courageous in a specific, difficult situation. We can see the stark contrast between wisdom and its absence most clearly in our decision-making processes. Consider a professional scenario. An impulsive decision made in the heat of the moment might look like immediately firing off a defensive email after receiving critical feedback. The unwise mind reacts to the perceived attack, prioritizing the immediate release of emotion over the long-term health of the working relationship. It is a decision made in the dark. The wise, Stoic, informed decision, however, is made by the light of that inner lamp. It involves pausing to separate the event from the judgment. It asks, is there any useful truth in this criticism, even if it was poorly delivered? What is my ultimate goal here? To win an argument or to produce the best possible work? How can I respond in a way that aligns with my values of courage and justice? This momentary pause allows for a response that is measured, professional, and far more likely to achieve a positive outcome. The same principle applies to personal decisions. An impulsive reaction might be to end a friendship after a single disagreement. Wisdom, however, would counsel understanding, communication, and the recognition that human relationships are complex and require patience and forgiveness. This pursuit of wisdom is how you ensure that your inner fortress is not just a stronghold but a beacon. It lights your way and, in doing so, often illuminates the path for others as well. It is the quality that allows you to remain calm when others are panicking, to see solutions where others see only problems, and to act with a clarity that cuts through the noise of fear and opinion. To actively cultivate this light, I want to invite you to a simple practice this week. Make it a goal to consciously seek out one new piece of practical wisdom. This doesn't require enrolling in a philosophy course. It could be as straightforward as reading a single chapter of a book that challenges your perspective, having a deep conversation with someone you admire and asking them how they approach difficult decisions, or simply spending 20 minutes in quiet reflection on a past mistake to extract a clear lesson from it. The source matters less than the intention. By actively seeking wisdom, you are doing the essential work of trimming the wick of your lamp, ensuring that your inner light burns ever brighter, guiding you with increasing clarity through whatever darkness may come. The present moment is where your power lies. This isn't a mystical abstraction. It is the most practical, immediately accessible tool in your entire Stoic toolkit for building resilience. Every single ounce of anxiety, every shred of regret, every flicker of fear about what might happen, all of it is generated by a mind that has drifted away from the reality of the here and now. The past is a memory, a story you tell yourself. The future is a projection, a narrative you construct from hope and worry. But the present moment, the one you are physically occupying right now, is the only realm where you can actually take action, make a choice, or exert any influence. The Stoics understood this with profound clarity, and they cultivated a powerful, mindfulness-like presence to anchor themselves firmly in this actionable reality, thereby conserving the immense mental energy that is otherwise wasted on temporal ghosts. Marcus Aurelius, amidst the unimaginable pressures of leading an empire, constantly returned to this anchor as his source of stability. He counseled himself, "Don't let your imagination be crushed by life as a whole. Stick with the situation at hand." And in another passage he wrote, "Concentrate every minute like a Roman on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness. Notice the language, the situation at hand, what's in front of you." This is the essence of Stoic presence. It is a fierce, disciplined focus on the single, most immediate task. He wasn't advising against planning for the future. He was warning against the emotional drain of worrying about the future or ruminating on the past. By pouring all of his attention into the present action, he found a sanctuary from the overwhelming weight of his responsibilities. This focused engagement is a form of strength because it makes you infinitely more effective and infinitely less stressed. You are dealing with what is real, not with what is imagined. We can integrate this ancient anchor into our modern lives through beautifully simple practices that act as instant reset buttons for a scattered mind. One of the most direct is the conscious use of the breath. The breath is a perpetual anchor, always available in the present moment. You cannot breathe yesterday's air or tomorrow's. The next time you feel a wave of anxiety about an upcoming deadline or a flush of anger about a past interaction, pause everything. Close your eyes if you can, and place your full attention on the physical sensation of 3 complete breaths. Feel the cool air entering your nostrils, the expansion of your ribs, the gentle fall of your chest as you exhale. You don't need to change your breathing, just observe it with gentle curiosity. This simple act forces your awareness out of the stories in your head and into the undeniable reality of your body, right here, right now. It is a direct application of the Stoic command to return to the task at hand, and in that moment, the task at hand is simply to breathe. Another powerful technique is a deliberate engagement of your senses, a practice often called sensory grounding. This is how you forcefully pull yourself out of a spiral of worry and into the tangible world. It works because it's impossible for your brain to fully focus on a mental narrative while it is also processing rich sensory data. The method is straightforward. Wherever you are, pause and silently name to yourself, without judgment, 5 things you can see. Notice the color of the wall, the pattern of light on the floor, the shape of an object across the room. Then, 4 things you can feel: the texture of your shirt sleeve, the solidity of the floor beneath your feet, the warmth of your own hands. 3 things you can hear: the distant hum of a computer, the sound of your own breathing, a bird outside the window. 2 things you can smell, perhaps the faint scent of coffee or clean air. And finally, 1 thing you can taste. This practice doesn't require any special equipment or environment. It can be done in a stressful office, a crowded grocery store, or your own living room. It is a modern, practical method for achieving the exact same state the Stoics sought: a mind fully engaged with the present reality, and therefore a mind at peace. This ability to anchor yourself is the bedrock of actionable resilience. A mind lost in anxiety about a future presentation is paralyzed. It cannot prepare effectively. But a mind anchored in the present can break that presentation down into a series of manageable, present-moment tasks: researching 1 point, crafting 1 slide, rehearsing 1 section. The overwhelming whole becomes a sequence of simple, doable actions. The same applies to personal challenges. Worrying about a relationship problem creates only suffering. Addressing 1 present moment aspect of it, scheduling a calm conversation, or simply listening without planning a rebuttal creates progress. Your power always only exists now. To truly feel the strength of this Stoic anchor, I want to invite you to a very immediate experiment. For the next 60 seconds, I want you to press pause on this video and simply practice noticing your immediate surroundings without any judgment or internal commentary. Look around the room you're in. Notice the play of light and shadow. Listen to the layers of sound in the space around you. Feel the weight of your body in your chair and the temperature of the air on your skin. If your mind wanders to a thought about what you're seeing or a memory it triggers, gently guide it back to the pure, simple sensation of the moment. There is no goal other than to be fully present for 1 single minute. When you return, observe the quality of your focus and your calm. This tiny practice is the first step in training your mind to find its power not in the distant future, but firmly, unshakably in the now. The Stoics didn't avoid hard times, they leaned into them. They saw life's inevitable difficulties not as misfortunes to be lamented, but as the essential training grounds for the soul, the very crucible in which raw character is forged into unbreakable strength. While modern culture often sells us a fantasy of a frictionless life free from pain and hassle, the Stoics offered a radically different and far more empowering perspective. They understood that a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor, and that a life without obstacles would, ironically, leave us weak, unprepared, and devoid of the very resilience required to truly appreciate joy and peace. The crucible of challenge, by its very nature, is where we discover what we are truly made of. Epictetus, who knew profound adversity from his time as a slave, framed this with his characteristic blunt wisdom. He said, "Difficulties are things that show what men are." Notice he doesn't say difficulties are punishments or random acts of a cruel universe. They are revealers. They are tests that show us the current quality of our own mettle. In another powerful passage, he instructs us to welcome these tests. For as foot materials are for the feet, so are all objective materials for the mind. When you use them as exercise, you gain in capacity and strength. If you coddle yourself, you become weak and soft. This is the core of the Stoic view. The obstacle is not merely something to be endured. It is the raw material, the weight, the resistance that we must use to exercise and grow our mental and emotional muscles. The challenge itself is the gift. We can see this philosophy enacted in the most dramatic moments of history. Consider the example of Nelson Mandela, who endured 27 years of imprisonment. Rather than allowing his spirit to be broken by this unimaginable hardship, he used his confinement as a crucible. He studied, he debated with his captors, he maintained his physical health, and he refined his vision for a reconciled nation. His prison cell became his Stoic training ground, forging a leader of almost superhuman patience, forgiveness, and resolve. His adversity did not diminish him. It amplified his strength and purpose on a global scale. On a more everyday level, think of someone who has faced a significant health scare. The initial diagnosis is a terrifying blow. Yet, so often, people emerge from such an ordeal with a transformed perspective. They speak of a newfound gratitude for each day, a clearer sense of their priorities, and a deeper appreciation for their relationships. The illness was a brutal crucible, but it forged a stronger, more present, and more courageous version of themselves. This transformative process requires a conscious shift in mindset. It's about moving from asking, "Why is this happening to me?" to asking, "What is this happening for me?" What strength is this situation inviting me to develop? A career setback, like an unexpected job loss, can feel like a professional death. The reactive mindset sees only loss and failure. The Stoic mindset, however, sees a forced opportunity, a crucible for developing courage to explore a new path, humility to reassess one's skills, and resilience to bounce back from rejection. A painful conflict in a relationship is a crucible for practicing patience, honest communication, and the courage to set boundaries or offer forgiveness. Even a mundane daily frustration, like a broken-down car or a cancelled flight, is a micro-crucible designed to test and strengthen your patience and your ability to adapt to circumstances beyond your control. Your entire life, with all its twists and turns, is one continuous forging process. The fire will sometimes feel too hot, the hammer blows too jarring. But the Stoic stands firm in the knowledge that this is not destruction, it is construction. It is the active, often difficult creation of a self that is capable of facing anything with equanimity and strength. The goal is not to enjoy the pain, but to respect its purpose and to actively participate in your own transformation. So I want to leave you with this reflective task. Bring to mind the single biggest challenge you are facing in your life right now. It might be looming large and feeling overwhelming. Now, I want you to consciously reframe it. See it not as a monster blocking your path, but as your personal crucible. Ask yourself, what specific quality is this challenge attempting to forge in me? Is it patience? Is it courage? Is it perseverance? Is it humility? Name it. Then make a silent commitment to step into that fire not as a victim, but as an active participant in your own growth. Decide that you will not let this difficulty break you, but that you will allow it to build you. This shift in perspective is the first and most powerful step in transforming your greatest trials into your greatest teachers. What if alignment with nature was the key to tranquility? This isn't about moving to a cabin in the woods or becoming an expert survivalist. For the Stoics, living in accordance with nature was a profound philosophical principle, the very bedrock of a resilient and harmonious life. They saw nature not just as the external world of trees and rivers, but as the entire cosmic order, the way things are and the way they work. including the fundamental truths of human nature itself. To live against this grain, to fight the current of reality, is to create relentless, exhausting friction within yourself. But to understand the natural order and to consciously align your desires and actions with it is to find a profound and unshakable flow, a harmony that silences internal conflict and builds a fortress of calm that circumstances cannot easily breach. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this idea as his anchor in a tumultuous life, writing in his Meditations, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." He is not advocating for a passive resignation here, but for an active, heartfelt acceptance of the reality of your situation, the raw materials that nature and fate have provided you. In another passage, he gets even more specific. The universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it. This pairs the acceptance of nature's constant flux with our power to choose our perception of it. The Stoic harmony with nature is this beautiful dance. First, a clear-eyed acceptance of the external reality you cannot change, and second, a deliberate alignment of your internal world, your judgments and actions with the rational, virtuous potential that is your own human nature. We can find powerful, modern parallels to this ancient wisdom all around us if we know where to look. Consider the simple, undeniable rhythm of the seasons. We don't shake our fists at the sky in November, demanding that it be July again. We accept the cold, the shorter days, the falling leaves as part of a natural cycle. We adapt our behavior accordingly. We wear warmer clothes. We enjoy indoor activities. We perhaps even learn to appreciate the unique beauty and quiet reflection that winter offers. To do otherwise would be absurd and utterly exhausting. Now, apply that same principle to the seasons of your own life. Are you resisting a natural period of quiet after a time of great activity? Are you fighting against the natural slowing down that comes with age, or the changing dynamics of a long-term relationship? We often exhaust ourselves railing against these natural progressions, trying to hold onto a summer that has already passed, instead of gracefully adapting to and finding the value in the autumn or winter of our current circumstance. Another profound example is our resistance to the natural spectrum of human emotion. Modern culture often tells us to be perpetually happy, optimistic, and productive. But human nature is not a single note of joy. It is a complex symphony that includes sadness, grief, anger, and fear. These are not design flaws, they are natural, adaptive responses to the world. The Stoic practice isn't to suppress these feelings, but to accept their presence as a natural part of the human experience, while then using our rational faculty to prevent them from dictating our actions. It is the difference between saying, "I should not feel this sadness," which is fighting nature, and saying, "This sadness is a natural response to my loss. I will feel it, but I will not let it prevent me from acting with kindness and integrity today," which is working in harmony with nature. This acceptance of our emotional landscape is a tremendous act of self-compassion that conserves immense energy otherwise spent on internal civil war. So I want to offer you a quiet moment of reflection to see where you might be creating unnecessary struggle by resisting the natural order of things. Look at your life right now and ask yourself this simple but powerful question. Where am I trying to push the river? Where am I exhausting myself by arguing with a reality that simply is? Perhaps it's resisting the natural need for rest and recovery by constantly pushing yourself to do more. Maybe it's fighting the natural pace of a project, trying to force an outcome faster than it can healthily develop. It could be as simple as resisting the weather, letting a rainy day ruin your mood instead of accepting it as a chance for a different kind of cozy, indoor activity. Identify that one point of resistance. Now imagine what it would feel like to just stop pushing, not to give up, but to relax into acceptance, to stop arguing with reality and to start working with it. How much mental energy would that free up? How might that acceptance, that decision to flow with the current rather than against it, become your newest and most unexpected source of strength? Your inner strength quietly inspires those around you. This is perhaps the most beautiful and often overlooked legacy of building a mental fortress. The impact it has far beyond the confines of your own mind. Stoicism, for all its focus on personal virtue and self-mastery, was never a philosophy of selfish isolation. The Romans called this concept exemplum, the power of leading by example. They understood that a life lived with quiet integrity, calm in the face of chaos, and unwavering principle doesn't just benefit the individual. It becomes a silent lesson to everyone who witnesses it. Your resilience is contagious. Your peace becomes a sanctuary not just for you, but offers a moment of refuge for others caught in their own storms. This is the ripple effect of inner fortitude, where the work you do on yourself in silence echoes out into the world, influencing your family, your community, and the very fabric of your interactions in ways you may never fully see. Seneca, who advised the powerful and wrote for the masses, understood this social dimension of personal strength profoundly. He wrote, "A good character is the only guarantee of everlasting, carefree happiness." Even if some obstacle to this comes on the scene, its appearance is only to be compared to clouds which drift beneath the sun but never overcome it. Now consider the second-order effect of that unovercome sun. When you become that sun, that source of steady, carefree happiness rooted in character, you don't just light your own path. You illuminate the path for others. Your consistent calm in a crisis shows your colleagues that panic is not the only option. Your graceful acceptance of a setback teaches your children that failure isn't fatal. Your refusal to be drawn into gossip or petty drama models for your friends what true integrity looks like. You are living proof that there is another way to be in the world, a way that is not dictated by external chaos, but is governed by an internal, unshakable compass. We see this legacy of quiet strength in the most essential roles of our society. Think of a skilled emergency room doctor in the middle of a hectic shift. They are not shouting orders or radiating anxiety. They are a pillar of focused calm. This steadiness is not for their benefit alone. It instantly lowers the heart rates of the nurses around them. It reassures the terrified patient on the gurney, and it allows the entire team to function with precision and grace under pressure. Their inner fortress protects everyone in the room. Or consider a parent caring for a sick child through a long, worrying night. Their own fear is real, but they choose to project a gentle, reassuring presence. This isn't inauthentic. It is the highest form of love, using your own hard-won resilience to create a bubble of safety for someone else. The parent's inner strength becomes the child's comfort. In the workplace, a leader who remains level-headed during a financial downturn or a major project failure does more than just manage the crisis. They instill confidence and prevent a mass exodus of talent. Their calm is a strategic asset that preserves the entire organization. This legacy is powerful precisely because it is silent. You are not preaching Stoicism, you are embodying it. People may never know you journal every morning, that you practice negative visualization, or that you consciously reframe your judgments. They simply experience you as someone who is dependable, thoughtful, and strangely calm when everything is falling apart. They see the output of your practice, not the practice itself, and in that witnessing, a seed is planted. They might think, how are they so steady? Maybe I could try to be more like that. Your example becomes a permission slip for others to explore their own capacity for resilience. You normalize strength without ever having to say a word about it. So I want to leave you with a question to ponder, one that connects your personal journey to its wider impact. Look around your own life, at your family, your friends, your co-workers, even the casual acquaintances you interact with daily. Who is watching you, who might be quietly drawing strength from your example without you even realizing it? Perhaps it's your younger sibling who sees how you handle stress, or a new employee who looks to you for cues on how to navigate the company culture. Maybe it's your own children who are learning what resilience looks like by watching you live it. When you commit to building your inner citadel, you are never doing it just for yourself. You are contributing to a reservoir of calm and strength that benefits your entire circle. Your peace becomes their peace. Your strength becomes a legacy that empowers others to begin their own silent construction. A mental fortress is never finished, it's always under renovation. This might be the single most important truth about building inner strength. It is not a project you complete, but a relationship you sustain. There is no certificate of mastery, no final level to unlock, no day when you can finally declare yourself permanently resilient and immune to life's chaos. The Stoics understood this deeply. They framed philosophy not as a theoretical subject to be learned, but as a practical craft to be lived day in and day out. Your inner citadel is a living structure, and like any living thing, it requires constant care, maintenance, and occasional upgrades to stand strong against the inevitable weathering of time and circumstance. To believe otherwise is to build on sand, assuming one good effort will last a lifetime. The great teacher Epictetus, who focused relentlessly on the application of these ideas, left no room for ambiguity on this point. He told his students, "If you didn't learn these things in order to practice them, then what did you learn them for?" This rhetorical question cuts to the heart of continuous construction. Knowledge without consistent application is worthless. He drove the point home even more forcefully by comparing the practice of philosophy to the craft of a carpenter or a musician, saying, "If you wish to be a writer, write. If you wish to be a reader, read. You would not expect to play a beautiful sonata on the piano after one lesson, nor would you expect to build a sturdy table after a single day in a workshop. These skills demand daily, disciplined practice. Why would the far more complex art of living well, of managing your judgments, your emotions, and your reactions be any different? The need for continual practice isn't a failure. It is the very nature of the work itself. We can see this principle of perpetual upkeep in the simplest of our modern habits. Consider the practice of physical fitness. You don't go to the gym for 6 months, get into peak shape, and then assume you're done forever. You know that if you stop, your muscles will atrophy, your endurance will fade, and your hard-won strength will diminish. The body requires consistent training to maintain its form. Your mind is no different. The Stoic practices we've explored, the evening journaling, the morning meditation, the cognitive pauses throughout the day, are the reps and sets for your mental and emotional resilience. Skipping them doesn't just mean you fail to progress. It means you actually begin to lose ground. The world is constantly applying pressure, and without consistent counter-pressure in the form of disciplined thought, your inner walls will slowly, imperceptibly begin to crack. This perspective transforms how we view our inevitable stumbles and off days. You will have mornings where you skip your quiet reflection because you hit the snooze button too many times. You will have evenings where you collapse into bed without reviewing your day. You will lose your temper in a situation where you wish you had remained calm. The untrained mind sees these moments as failures, as proof that the entire project is futile, but the mind of the continuous builder sees them differently. They are not failures, they are data points. They are the equivalent of noticing a loose stone in the wall or a draft coming through a window. They are not reasons to abandon the fortress. They are reminders that it's time for a little maintenance. The commitment is not to perfection, but to persistent return. It's the decision to come back to the practice again and again, no matter how many times you wander away. This is the beautiful, lifelong journey of Stoicism. It is not a burden of endless labor, but an invitation to an ever-deepening conversation with yourself and the world. Each day offers a new opportunity to practice courage, to exercise wisdom, to choose justice, and to practice temperance. The challenges change, your life circumstances evolve, and therefore your practice must adapt and grow with you. The resilience that served you in your 20s may need renovation to serve you in your 40s. The fortress that withstood one kind of storm may need reinforcing for another. This is not a flaw, it is the dynamic, engaging work of crafting a life of meaning and purpose. So I want to leave you with the most practical and empowering step of all. This entire video is meaningless if it doesn't translate into action in your life. The construction begins now, not someday when you have more time or feel more motivated. Think of one single, small, manageable practice from everything we've discussed that resonated with you. Maybe it's the 5-minute evening review of your day. Perhaps it's the commitment to take 3 deep breaths before responding to a stressful email. It could be as simple as practicing 1 moment of gratitude each night before you sleep. Don't try to do everything at once. Choose one brick, just one, and commit to laying that brick every single day for the next week. Don't worry about the entire fortress, just focus on that one consistent act. Notice how it feels to make a promise to yourself and keep it. That feeling, that tiny victory of self-command, is the mortar that will eventually hold your entire inner citadel together. Your continuous construction starts with that one small, deliberate, and repeatable choice. So as we reach the end of our journey through the architecture of inner strength, let's take one final look at the blueprint we've been drawing together. We began by clearing the ground, understanding that inner silence is the non-negotiable foundation for everything else, that quiet space where you can hear your own thoughts above the world's noise. From there, we laid the cornerstone of cognitive detachment, learning to separate raw events from the judgments we layer onto them, realizing that most of our suffering comes not from what happens, but from the stories we choose to tell ourselves about it. We raised the walls through voluntary discomfort, intentionally stepping into small challenges to prove our resilience to ourselves before life forces larger ones upon us. And we installed the gatekeeper of mindful presence, training ourselves to anchor in the current moment, because that is the only place where our power truly resides. We explored the inner courtyard of self-examination, making a daily practice of reviewing our actions and aligning them with our values. We climbed the watchtower of perspective to see our troubles in their true proportion against the vast backdrop of time and space. We stocked the armory with Premeditation of Evils, mentally rehearsing adversity to rob it of its power to surprise us. We dug the moat of emotional boundaries, learning to protect our peace from the opinions and moods of others. And we set the Keystone of Acceptance, finally ceasing to argue with reality, and instead channeling our energy into what we can actually change. We passed through the forge of adversity, understanding that the very things that stand in our way can become the way forward if we choose to see them as training. We cultivated a reasoned inner dialogue, learning to speak to ourselves with the compassion and clarity of a wise friend. And we dedicated ourselves to the 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, understanding that our character is the ultimate guardian of our peace. We filled our reservoir with gratitude, actively appreciating what we have to counter the desire for what we lack. We became the architect of intentional action, ensuring our deeds were chosen by design, not by default. We lit the beacon of equanimity, cultivating a steady calm that remains unshaken by external circumstances. We built the foundation of self-reliance, finding our validation within rather than seeking it from others. We practiced the masonry of discipline, understanding that small, consistent acts build immense strength over time. We cherished the inner sanctuary of solitude, withdrawing to reconnect with our deepest selves. We followed the compass of moral integrity, ensuring our actions always align with our principles. We raised the shield of indifference to trivia, conserving our mental energy for what truly matters. We kindled the inner light of wisdom, pursuing a deeper understanding of how to live well, and we dropped the anchor of present moment focus, returning again and again to the only time we can ever actually act right now. We saw how challenges are the crucible that forges our strength, how living in harmony with nature's rhythms reduces internal friction, and how the legacy of our inner fortitude quietly inspires everyone around us. And we embraced the most vital truth of all, that this is not a project with a finish line, but a continuous, lifelong practice of maintenance and renovation. Your mental fortress is built in the silent, daily choices, the decision to pause before reacting, to find the lesson in the obstacle, to act with integrity when no one is watching. It is constructed not in a single grand gesture, but in 1,000 small moments of courage and clarity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of this power, writing, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. This is the profound promise of Stoicism, that your tranquility cannot be taken from you without your consent, because it is built from the inside out, through your own disciplined thought and action. This isn't about becoming invulnerable or emotionless. It's about becoming resilient, grounded, and clear-eyed. It's about building a home within yourself that you can always return to, a sanctuary of strength that remains standing long after the storms of circumstance have passed. And the beautiful part is that you can start building that sanctuary today, right where you are. You don't need special tools or a dramatic life change. You can start with one single, small practice. Maybe it's writing down one thing you're grateful for tonight. Perhaps it's taking 3 deep breaths the next time you feel stressed. It could be simply asking yourself, is this within my control? When a problem arises, I would love to hear which of these Stoic practices resonated most with you on your own journey. Was it the idea of cognitive detachment, the power of negative visualization, the daily discipline of journaling? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's continue this conversation and learn from each other. And if you found this exploration valuable, consider subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into Stoic wisdom and practical philosophy. Thank you for investing this time in building your inner strength. Remember, the fortress is built in silence, but the peace it provides echoes for a life.